Hey Nymfam, and welcome to a brand new video. In today's video we're going to be covering how I'm getting on so far on my wildcard and my team selection from what I know right now. If you're loving the content, then please do leave me a comment below. How's your game week 28 going for you so far? And please do drop a like. Let's try hit 60 likes on this video. That would be absolutely amazing. Lastly, if you're new to the channel, then please do subscribe. It really helps us content creators out. Okay, let's get into this. And honestly, as wildcards go, it's not amazing right now. Dubravka came in for De Gea for another double game week player on my wildcard. He failed to keep a clean sheet against Brighton, but did make 3 saves for 3 points, so that's not too bad considering what De Gea got. My defence has fared a little better so far when I tell you that I agonised over whether to sell Cancelo. Boy, did I agonise over it. So much so that I think it determined the rest of my team, because all of my time was taken up on whether to go with 2 Chelsea defenders and whether or not to sell Cancelo. So I think it probably took over all of my time, and I didn't really think that Chelsea would keep a clean sheet. So I was really umming and ahhing. In the end, I decided to take a bit of a punt thanks to a few people who helped me weigh up James's potential games compared to Cancelo's in the next few weeks. I decided to be brave and make the switch, just ignoring whether or not I felt like they would keep a clean sheet. I know how attacking James can be, so yeah, I just went for it. Thank goodness I did this week anyway, as James has 18 points to Cancelo's 2. We'll have to wait and see long term, of course, whether this was the right decision. But if it was not for James, then I would be in some serious trouble now on this wildcard. So at the moment, I'm very grateful that I made that switch. Wolves' defence are a joke at this point. I got a few good weeks out of them before everyone else jumped on and weighed them down, and now only 1 point from Kilman. He is absolutely killing me softly right now. So yeah, if you could all jump off again, that would be great, because I feel like this team needs to be lifted of the FPL burden that they have. Rudiger was always the plan on my wildcard. I'll take the clean sheet happily and move on. In a bid to have another double game week player in Chelsea defence, I decided to leave Robertson a week. More on that in just a moment. But I couldn't bench Trent at all, and I was absolutely desperate for him to wake up this week, where Robertson has been absolutely pulling up trees the last few weeks. Trent has been very quiet. So yeah, I really needed him to come good this week, and you can't say fairer than an assist, clean sheet and bonus points for 12 beautiful points. Thank you, Trent. Where my defence excelled, my midfield flopped big style. Well, the ones that are in my starting 11, that is. I think Ramsey played in the 4-0 thrashing against Southampton. It says he did, but his 3 points and no returns say otherwise. Valuable lesson learnt here. Ramsey cannot cover Coutinho, people. And I'm really sad to say that I'm annoyed at myself at this, and a little more on that in a second. Rafinha looked great but failed to get any returns so far. I do feel like he could grab something in that second game though, because he did look really good. Salah ended up as my captain. I actually still don't believe I did this, to be honest. I think there's a few reasons for this. Selling the likes of Son, Cancelo and Bowen on my wildcard felt risky enough without then captaining someone random for a double game week like I did with Weghorst last week and it not paying off. Getting Coutinho meant benching another double game week player, as I wasn't benching Trent, Kane or Salah. But the reason I don't have Coutinho is that I was so hung up on my defence and getting Robertson in next week for his double that the money in the bank and not taking the hit next game week for him became far more important than getting Coutinho in over Kulu and captaining him. And that's another very valuable lesson learned, because if I knew in my head, which I did, that I was going to have a double captaincy option in getting Coutinho, I should have just done it and worried about any hits or transfers I needed to make next game week. I'm absolutely kicking myself, because I knew that Coutinho was highly owned and I knew that he would be highly captained, and he was just the obvious choice really in terms of like being up there with the captaincy options besides James. And I never one to really captain a defender, and especially not one that's come back off of such of a big injury. So I would have just put it on Coutinho happily, and whatever happened, happened. So bearing that in mind, I should have just done it, really. Up front, we're still waiting on Kane, obviously, but lesson learnt here with Jimenez. I've had Jimmy a few weeks before he was popular, and he's done okay for me. The problem is that benching last week made me wary of him, and Hwang just looked much better. I should have made the switch whilst I had the chance and followed my gut on this. We're seeing so many people getting on Jimenez this week. I just got a little scared of percentage owned, to be honest, rather than just following my gut. That said, hopefully Laj can see that the last 2 times that he's benched Jimenez, he's lost, and hopefully starts him against Watford midweek. Fingers crossed he does something. Also, Brozier was more of a fear and price pick than anything else, but he still has a game to go. Let's hope we get a little midweek brilliance from him like he produced last week in the cup. All of that means I'm on 54 points so far, not the big bounce I was hoping for off of my wildcard, I have to admit. Still another set of games to go, but I'm on a really tiny red arrow to 79,618k, a 1.5% drop. To be honest, with no Coutinho and no captain, I'm not expecting to get a green arrow at this point. Really disappointing. However, in comparison, if I hadn't have wildcarded, I'd be on 41 points minus 4, so a net of 37 points, with Kilman, Livramento, Rudiger, Son, Jimenez and Dennis to go. So only Dennis, Son and Livra over the players in my wildcard team. And I have some others in this team like Brozier, Kane, Rafinha and James to hopefully go in this wildcard. At the moment I'm up 17 points in comparison, so hopefully a little more by the end of the week. When I look at it like that, I'd be on a big red arrow now rather than a small one. So at the moment, it's okay. I'm sure the coming weeks will reveal if I've done the right thing or not. But I think it's more so that Coutinho pick that hurts the most. I could have done a little better by playing Saka over some of my doubles so far, but I was always going to find it hard to drop someone to bench in a double game week. I had a feeling that Saka would go big. It was a gut feeling. I tried to switch him in a few times. I just couldn't take Trent out. I wasn't sure what Rafinha would do. He was highly owned, as was Brozier. Wasn't really going to bench Jimenez without knowing whether or not he was going to miss out or not. So, yeah, I just couldn't fit him in after wildcarding. You know, I just had to take a gamble and bench my single game week player. I just kind of hoped, I guess, he would be involved, but not so involved. But yeah, hindsight is a wondrous thing, as we all know. With that, this is how I'm looking. This is my bust team. I'm so far pretty happy with this team, except for not owning Coutinho, but hopefully the midweek games will help clear up if I need to sell somebody like Rafinha for him. Not ideal, as of course Rafinha plays in game week 30, as does Coutinho, but I'll weigh up which one is more dangerous for that particular game week after the midweek games. My planned move when wildcarding was one of the Chelsea defenders out for Robertson, who doubles. I still want to do this, but my headache will be which one of Rudiger or James to sell. If I'm honest, James has been great, but will he be nailed going forward? Rudiger plays every match. I mean, this is a tough one. For having another double game week player next game week and covering Robertson from all those wildcarders who wildcarded in game week 26 feels pretty important. I'm hoping again midweek will give me some notification on whether or not James or Rudiger can make way for the short term for Robertson. My other headache is if to bench boost. Looking at the form of Jimenez, Ramsey and Kilman in the first game, I think I'm happy to hold my bench boost for the moment and not use it. Dubravka has a Crystal Palace fixture to be added in somewhere in the coming weeks. Hopefully him and Ramsdale get a double at the same time, or at least one of them has a good fixture and I can hit the bench boost then. Other than that, it's really just a decision of whether to play Brozier or Ramsey and decide which one of them goes on the bench. I've gone for Brozier at the moment, given that he plays Watford and Watford conceded 3 to Arsenal. Again, hopefully midweek fixtures will give me a bit more of an idea on which one of these to bench. But yeah, you know, I'm liking the look of this team. The only problem is usually when I like a look of the team, it doesn't do very well. I'm just kind of hoping my wildcard pays off now these next 3 game weeks, because there will be a lot of people that haven't wildcarded yet that will be wildcarding in game week 31. and that was my option, but I was hoping not to lose so much ground in these next 3 weeks in order to, you know, cover these blanks and doubles. So I've taken a bit of a punt with the wildcard, gone a bit earlier than I would have liked to. Hopefully it pays me back in the next couple of game weeks. My captaincy will be on Salah despite him letting me down this game week. Oh my god, the chances. He had so many chances. I mean, those first few minutes where he was like one-on-one with the keeper and could have tucked it away and just banked me those points then and there, I'd have been happy. I wouldn't have needed anything else from him for the rest of the match. What is it about him and just one-on-ones with keepers? I don't know what it is. Like, the really difficult shots, he tucks them away like nobody's business. But then sometimes the really easy ones, he just, yeah, he fluffs them. So really disappointed, but I'm pretty sure that I'll be on Salah this week. He tried his absolute best for me. I think many triple captainers will go Salah this game week to try and replicate the big bounce that us triple captainers got in game week 26. With that, I think it's probably safer to cover Salah and just captain him. However, I feel like depending on how Kane looks, he would be my only challenger for the armband, I think. But yeah, as I say, I love Mo, and one game week's blank. I can't moan at him. It's just happened to be annoying that it's the one game week that I actually captained him in a single game week above everyone else who actually captained double game week players. Cheers for that, Mo. From the sublime triple captain to the ridiculous. Here are the trending transfers so far this week. No surprise in seeing James coming in. He's been fantastic. Obviously, just bear in mind, I do feel like he's going to get a rest in one of these couple of games coming up. So, yeah, I mean, that could be next game week if he ends up playing this midweek. So I would just bear that in mind, but I completely understand it. Also, he doesn't play in game week 30, so you may just be potentially getting game week 29 out of him. So bear that in mind. Saka looking absolutely amazing. Yeah, he pulled up trees and he does play in game week 30, so he is not a bad shout going forward. Coutinho, oh Coutinho, my biggest regret so far this season. Yeah, he looked amazing, so cannot blame this, especially at the price tag and the fact that he plays in game week 32. Interesting to see Ivan Toney coming in. I think seeing the state of Jimenez and the Southampton guys not returning, then yeah, Toney is obviously making his way in for that budget forward spot. Salah, interestingly enough, I didn't think many people didn't have Salah at this point. Moving over to the top transfers out this week, then Diaz, obviously injured for City, so that's quite an obvious out, I feel. Bowen, a little trickier. I don't think the injury is as bad as they first feared, so there is a potential he could be back, if not for game week 29, then in that all-important blank game week 30 where he does play. So that is an interesting one. People still getting rid of Jota. Interestingly, I think him not starting on the weekend may have put a scupper now to potentially Jota being an option going forward, at least in the near future. Maddison is an interesting one. I think the injury has just, a lot of people will have got on hoping to cover that great fixture for Leicester against Brentford in game week 30, but that injury may see him out now for some time. And Digne, who of course had an illness at the big C, so we don't really know when he is going to be back and whether or not it will be before game week 30. I'm sure those that got on a wild card this week or transferred him in early to try and cover that game week will have all eyes on that particular injury. And that's it, you guys. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. It really means a lot to me. I'll do a live stream on Friday, hopefully. It's usually around late afternoon, early evening, around the late 3 o'clock, early 4 o'clock mark, to update you on my team and team news, injuries, etc. It was a lot of fun last Friday, so make sure you hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on when I'm going live. But for now, please check out the sponsors of this video, Fantasy Football Fix. Until next time, Nymfria out.